All right. Hey, good morning still here. It is Sunday. It is September 29th, and we have the Blackout Pregame show. I'll be joined by two of the best that do it in the content creation. I got one from Woodward Sports. His name is Easy. He'll be joining us today. And then we also have Chef Talks Lions. Of course, you guys know who Chef is, doing a wonderful job there on the All Grit podcast. So today's lineup, we're going to be talking about Seattle Seahawks. Have they been tested enough to go up against the Detroit Lions? Are the Lions healthy enough to go up against the Seattle Seahawks in what should be a pretty deep defense? The biggest question of the day is right there. Braylon Dennis just mentioned it. Now Brian Branch is listed with an illness. We're going to talk about all those things and more today. It'll be an interesting conversation, but that's what it is today. It's the blackout. What does it mean? We've done themes before, and they've kind of blown up in our face. And then I also want to bring in some audio from a radio show talking about, well, their own Seahawks and how maybe they just aren't tested enough. So we're going to do all that here on the Blackout Pregame show. Let's get into it, fellas. Good morning. Welcome in Easy from Woodward Sports. And, of course, Chef Talks Lions. How you guys doing today? We'll start left to right. We'll go Easy, then Chef. And
man. Thanks for having me.
Well, thanks for coming on. I appreciate you jumping into this. It was good to meet you a couple weeks ago at a game. And, yeah, it's been a long time coming. You guys know I like to work with everybody, and I think that's what it's all about in this industry is having good quality people on, but being able to, extend that olive branch to each other. And the fans, the community, that's what it's all about, right? And they absolutely love it. They love seeing people work together. And then Chef Man, good morning. How are you today? Or good afternoon, whatever it is for you over there. There you go. We do got some good games on today, and we've got a really good NFC North matchup today. The Vikings and the Packers, not to get too far off a track here, but Easy, I would like to know for you, man, have you debated, who do you want to win out of this today?
Yeah, I heard someone say you kind of need the Packers to win this one just because that brings us closer to, being one in the division, even
that
if
would
it's
be
a tight
me.
situation. That makes total sense for me. I'm down with that. I heard Yair Alexander might not go, which makes me a little bit nervous. I'm also a little bit nervous for Jordan Love. That Vikings defense has been no joke, man. If you're going in there with a banged up knee, trying to run around and stuff like that, those guys will throw you down. You might injure himself some more, but I think as Lions fans, fortunately, I'm not gonna say we want the Packers to win, but we need them to win. It'd be more beneficial for us if they won.
Yeah, I think so too. I think you gotta level the playing field here. Get everybody to 3-1, assuming that the Lions are going to be able to take care of business on Monday night. So, Chef, what do you think, man? Do you want Packers? Do you want Vikings? Where are you at in this conundrum that we are in right now at week 4? Who do you have to suffer through the least? I don't know if they're going to fall down. I really don't know. If they stay healthy, I think that the Vikings I think they're legit. But you know what? It's only week 4, and talking about legitness, let's turn over some audio. So we'll take a break to even get started this morning. I want to turn over some audio to a Seattle Seahawk radio show, or Seattle radio show, I should say. Salkin, I can't remember the other guy's name. I want to listen to what he has to say, kind of set the tone for today, and then we're going to bounce right back and get into it. So let's listen to what this podcast had to say. You guys might have to listen to it, mute, but listen to it if you can.
I don't know that one game is going to decide everything. And if they blow out the Lions, hopefully we'll show a little bit of restraint. Just like if they get blown out, you're going to have to show some restraint there as well. But don't you think this is our first real opportunity to see this team against a capable quarterback with good weaponry and an excellent offensive line? We just haven't seen that yet. And that measuring stick moment is pretty important after beating tomato cans.
Yeah, I was looking at some crazy number.
Let me pause this for a second. So I'm getting some error messages here that they can't hear Chef, and I don't know why.
Let's get a little closer to Mike, maybe.
Well, I don't think they can hear him, period. I think there's something going on. This doesn't happen, but it happens from time to time. For whatever reason, people just can't be heard. Even though everything is turned on, something is just not right. So, Chef, go ahead and say something. Let's see if they can hear you now.
Can you guys hear me now?
And I know we're going to have a little bit of reverb with that by doing it this way. Just need someone to let us know if you can hear Chef. Just say, I can hear him. You might have to deal with a little bit of an echo.
Raise your hand if you're sure. Come on, guys.
Raise your hand if you're sure.
Yeah, I can hear him. I just put it on my phone.
You can hear him? Is it really really echoey?
Quiet.
Can you check your PC volume for me, Chef? Just make sure you're up to 82.
Yeah, I'll check it again. I checked it before. It was up there. Yeah, it's at 82.
Okay. Well, that's really interesting. One of these days we'll have this figured out. I need an OBS professional to figure out why we have so many issues when we do this.
I turned it up a little bit higher. I don't know, maybe it's louder now.
Okay. All right, let me bring this. You guys could hear the talk show, I hope, right?
Yeah, I'm playing it on my phone. I just put myself on mute and played it on the phone.
Okay, good deal.
I think it's good. You're just a little quiet, Chef.
All right, here we go.
Stick moment is pretty important after beating tomato cans.
Yeah, I was looking at some crazy number. It'll take me too long to try to pull it up and put my Ebenezer.
All right, I'm gonna start the talk show. We'll get this rolling. I thought the most interesting part of what he was saying is that they haven't really beat anybody but tomato cans. So even their own talk show, over there in Seattle is saying that Seattle hasn't beat anybody. And I thought that was an interesting point. And we'll listen to the rest of it now, and it'll be about 4 minutes long.
I don't know that one game is going to decide everything. And if they blow out the Lions, hopefully we'll show a little bit of restraint. Just like if they get blown out, you're going to have to show some restraint there as well. But don't you think this is our first real opportunity to see this team against a capable quarterback with good weaponry and an excellent offensive line? We just haven't seen that yet. And that measuring stick moment is pretty important after beating tomato cans.
Yeah, I was looking at some crazy number. It'll take me too long to try to pull it up and put my Ebenezer's on. But underdogs this year in the NFL, Salk, it's absurd. What they've not only won, but even against the spread, it has just been a crazy start. And, in that Denver market, the 0-2 Broncos, Mo picks and everything, you're going to go to Tampa, go 0-3, you're going to go to the Jets, you're going to go 0-4. Oh my gosh, the wheels are coming off. And then they blow the doors off of Tampa Bay. Right, who had just gone up to, where did Tampa Bay go up? Baltimore and win or something? I mean, no, they went up to Detroit. They went up into Ford Field, did Tampa, and really handled those Lions. So I think you always got to be careful, especially in the NFL. You can do a little more so at ASU or in college football because there's only 12 of them before a championship game, and every one of them still, even with a 12-team playoff, still matters. But the NFL, you got to be a little careful, which is why, to me, the best point you make right there is we do get to gauge you against a very competent, very experienced, and very capable quarterback that knows that system inside and out.
Yeah, and that is shredded.
So let's start there. I'm sure you guys are just a little bit behind, but let's start there. The Seattle Seahawks are finally going up against, according to them, a very capable quarterback. Now, you don't hear this very often when other people, even Lions fans, are talking about Jared Goff. The word capable doesn't seem to come out a whole lot. You hear goof and other acronyms about Goff that don't seem to make sense. But Easy, I'll start with you here. How capable do you think Goff is against this defense, or even as a quarterback leading the Detroit Lions? I don't know your overall opinion on Goff, but I'd like to know kind of where you see this lining up for Jared Goff on Monday night, which, again, going against a defense that really hasn't faced an offense this season. I mean, Miami would have been, but not having Tua, they weren't competitive at all. So where do you see this lining up, and do you think that Goff is a capable quarterback?
I think he's a pretty capable quarterback. Obviously, I've always had that. I distinguish him. There's tiers. There's quarterback tiers. I do see him as maybe like a second tier guy. However, you can win with those type of guys. He's been to a Super Bowl before, so I do think he's capable. Against this Seattle Seahawks defense, though, I mean, tomorrow will be the test for the both of them. Really, I mean, they have two dynamite players in Devon Witherspoon, and they also got Tariq Woolen, and they've gotten the better of JG the last few times we played them. JG, I think, in both those games had pick sixes. And then you go also, you want to add in the fact the guy calling the plays, the puppet master, if you will, Mike McDonald, completely undressed Ben Johnson and Jared Goff last year as a Baltimore Raven when he was their defensive coordinator. So, like, it's definitely not an ideal matchup for our guy JG, but I do think as a team, and then that's the beautiful thing about the sport, right? It's a team sport. As I hate when quarterbacks get all the credit. Hey, I sometimes hate when they get all the blame. But, like, as a team, I think we can run against this defense, and you won't need that. You don't want to ask Jared Goff to be something that he may not necessarily be.
Yeah. I like your statement there of completely undressing the Detroit Lions, because I think for a lot of fans, maybe they don't understand that McDonald was the defensive coordinator for the Baltimore Ravens, and now that defense is now the Seattle Seahawks defense. I mean, they're missing Byron Murphy. Leonard Williams is out. I mean, two huge pieces to their defense right there, but Nwasu hasn't played all season. Boy Mafi, in my opinion, is the catalyst, on this team. I mean, he's the engine for this defense. Just my personal opinion. I mean, the guy is so quick to get pressure, and he applies pressure, immediately when he's in the game. The fact that they're missing those four guys, and I get Nwasu hasn't played. Chef, do you think that Jared Goff is going to be able to, one, not throw a pick six in this game, or even a pick, but two, do you feel like he's going to be able to manage the pressure now that Frank Ragnow's out?
I think you'll be able to manage and not throw picks. And I think the key there is all those four players that you're missing. Detroit's averaging, 163 yards per game on the ground. Just put that up to 300. I mean, just punch him in the mouth, run the damn ball. I mean, let Jared throw the ball 15, 20 times. We can really manage that if we're able to establish the run early. Um, there. I don't think that Jared has to do too much. And the other thing, as a Michigan fan, I know neither one of you are Michigan fans, okay, but I watched an entire season of Mike McDaniel or McDonald at the University of Michigan, and he had all the talent in the world. He had Aiden Hutchinson on that team, but there was one thing that he could not figure out. And I haven't seen really anybody do this to him. I don't know if he's addressed the situation since he got back to the NFL. Tempo. As soon as you went to tempo, he couldn't figure anything out on the defense. He couldn't make an adjustment on the fly, nothing. It was like you could bring Nebraska in there and they could start going tempo, and that vaunted Michigan defense just looked like garbage. So I don't know. Maybe that's something we can try.
It would be nice to see tempo. I had mentioned it, last week. I thought the Lions would benefit from going up tempo a little bit. I still feel like that's the story this week. The Lions in their 4-minute offense seem to play their best football on offense. I don't know how you guys feel about that, but when I see them get into their 4-minute, it seems like they are on pace. And the reason why I think pace is so important is because Jared Goff and this offense and these timing routes that they do, and Ben Johnson being a mixologist that he needs to get back to being, work really well when Goff knows the pressure is on him without even snapping the ball. I feel like he's a different quarterback when he knows that I have to snap and get it out, versus an 8-minute offense when you're trying to chew up a bunch of clock. It's early in the game. You're just trying to feel each other out. I feel like he takes the pressure off and is just looking for opportunity. Whereas if we go tempo, I feel like Jared Goff's going to have his best game of the season. I'm doubtful we'll see it. Easy, what do you think about our tempo game? And do you notice, is there a noticeable difference with Jared Goff in an up-tempo 4-minute offense versus, just kind of,
Yeah.
Yeah,
real quick. I mean, the tempo for that Michigan defense, probably because it couldn't read those signs so well. Going a bit too quick for all the sign reading. Not quick readers, not fast readers over there. No, but now I'm with, and it's so weird in the NFL, man. It does drive me crazy, and I understand that 2-minute drills is a lot of prevent defense, and that's why you're getting stuff gashed and whatnot. But like when teams got to go, it's crazy to me how often they're able to go. It's truly one of the trippier things in my. I just don't understand. But no, I agree. I think it's very much a timing system for everybody. Everybody got their landmarks in time for JJ to hit him. That's partially the reason why that Jameson Williams interception happened last week. He was knocked off his route. Same thing happened last year. It was Sam Laporta got knocked off his route too against the Bears. Like it's a very systematic system scheme, whatever you want to call it, and up tempo. I guess I had to see it. What I want to see though is lower the tempo, run the ball, smash mouth football. I think that's the way we gotta get it done. I think that's truly the identity of this football team. Like even going back to 2021, we were just forming it when we were losing, but people were like, "Damn, that was a tough team to play. Nobody wants to play them." They're. But now we're just get on the victory side of it. So run the ball. Make them not want to tackle Dave Montgomery and switch it up with Jameer Gibbs, and then set up play action from there.
Yeah, I would say this that I think you're spot on with run the ball. I mean, this is now a defense that is missing quite a few players in the middle of this defense that you should be able to run the ball. I think the biggest question is when you don't have Ragnow in the game, how much is that is going to affect the ability of this offense to be able to push, right? To be able to leverage the defense with the strength of an offensive line. I'm not so sure. Depending on who we put on the left side, I don't know if you've heard yet. Is it going to be Awasika? Is it going to be Sorsdahl? I mean, who is going to go? I doubt it's Skipper being in at guard, but who's going to go in at left guard? I haven't heard. I may have missed it, but who's going to be going in at left guard in place of Graham Glasgow is going to be the challenge. If it's Awasika, he played fairly well in the NFC Championship game. He's been trending. He's not my favorite player on the backups here, but I really don't like the depth of our offensive line behind our starters right now. Do you know Easy? Have you heard? Or Chef, have you heard? Who's going to be backing up the left guard? I don't know. That's why I was just curious if you guys knew. But the Lions are going up against the Seattle defense. It's ranked number 1 overall. Now, they have played 2 very tight games to start their season. They won 26-20 versus the Denver Broncos. The Patriots, I mean, they eked one out there 23-20. And then they really beat up the Dolphins 24-3. I mean, a team without a starting quarterback. You got Skylar Thompson in there. I mean, I think that anybody could have done a better job in that game. So I guess the biggest question is, do we feel like Seattle's been tested? And that's part of what that talk show was talking about. The radio, that they haven't been tested. They beat up tomato cans, to reference their analogy. And I would agree with that. They haven't been tested. And so far, Seattle is number 1 on defense, number 8 against the run, number 7 on tackling, number 14 in pass rush, and number 1 against coverage. Now, their pass rush is taking a hit. Without Nwaso, without Boye Mafe, they're taking a hit, a big hit in this game. So at the forefront of Seattle's, strong start, it's really been their defense, which is, at or near the top of the NFL in numerous categories throughout the first 3 weeks. And according to PFF, Seattle tops the charts for defense grade number 1. So given the fact that they're nicked, they're bruised, they got players out, can the Detroit Lions take advantage of it? Can they run the ball? Question is going to be this. Now that, the number 1 security blanket is out, Frank Ragnow, where do you see the Seattle defense trying to have success, and where can the Lions, start to have success against Seattle early in this game? Where would you expect us to go? I'll start with you, Easy, then we'll go to Chef.
Man, going back to like the bad little stretch that JG had last year, one of the things you can point to, I think somebody in the chat commented too, is the pressure. Like he can do well with blitzes because he knows where his guy's going to be. It's very, like he said, it's a landmark timing type offensive system. But when guys get in his face, he just tends to do some of the silliest things. He goes like full Will Levis at times. Even in the Rams game they won last year, I remember I think it was Donald someone got on him. He just went and threw the ball backwards, and luckily he recovered it. But like under pressure, he just makes mistakes, and that interior offensive line, without Frank Ragnow is a hot spot, for that Seattle defense. I'm sure they're looking at it. Going back to that Packers game last year, the Bears game, all those games where, that the interior offensive line getting shuffled around there. I will say this though, 2 backup guards in those situation versus just the 1 backup guard in this one. Although technically you point to Graham as a backup center, he's still a starter on this offensive line, but I fully expect them to attack us there. However, they're missing, 2 of their guys that could do that job. Byron Murphy out of this year's draft class, who I think is phenomenal. Leonard Williams, another guy I've been a big fan of throughout my whole career. I love defensive linemen, and they still got Jonathan Hankins from the Cowboys, but he's more of a run stuffer than he is a go getter after a quarterback. But I think that's where we're going to attack us, and unfortunately that's like where we're kind of weak at. I think that's the strongest point of attack when you're trying to get at JG, unless you're just successful on a blitz. But I think we combat that with just running the football, man. It's crazy, but and maybe sound boring, but like just they're missing that interior defensive line, like I just said. And we have not Monty Williams, that's our old coach for the Pistons. We have David Montgomery, who's just an
The
absolute
bowling ball.
menace.
Yeah.
Yes, he is not fun to tackle, and he's on a mission this year. He's on an interview with NFL Network earlier this season or off season. He was like, "Yeah, I'm taking this year personal," and he's never really opened up to like what that meant. But I'll take it because he's like the way he's playing now. Like, give it to me. I'll take it personally. Pause. But yeah.
Yeah. So, Chef, I mean, I know you love to run the ball. I mean, you've been calling for it, I think, the whole season. Just run the ball, run the ball, run the ball. The biggest question is it going to be Demo, or is it going to be Gibbs? And is it going to be Goff under center? Or do you think that we're going to see more of a shotgun delay, kind of set up the run fit and pick a hole and go? Like, or do you think it's going to be a little bit of everything in this game, which I'm hoping personally. I'm hoping that Ben Johnson is going to go back to being a mixologist. I kind of pegged him with that name, being a bartender, kind of a name, because a good bartender, they can mix up, really good drinks, really gets a crowd into it. Well, the best way to get this crowd into it on a Monday night is to mix up these calls and to allow your offensive players to make plays. And I think that between Demo and Gibbs, both can run between the tackles, but I think it's more of Gibbs' game, or more of Monty's game. But where do you think? Who do you think it's going to be, and where do you think we're going to get the best opportunity?
Well, I honestly believe that if we're talking about the middle of the defense, it's gonna be Monty. But there's gonna be a healthy dose of both of them. I think they both have eclipsed 200 yards rushing for this season, not like in a game, but I think Monty is about 30 yards more than Gibbs right now. And then Gibbs had a lot of targets against the Seahawks last season. Not for many yards, but I think that we'll be able to see some of that open up, especially with all of the guys missing. They're going to have to commit more people into the run, and that's going to open up the play action pass. Uh, so I think we're going to see a mix of things. I think we're going to see a mix of JG in the shotgun. We're going to see him under center. Um, but as far as the offensive line, if you put Sorsdal in there, I'm not watching this game. Okay, I'm just not gonna watch it because I have no faith in him. We're losing the game if it's Sorsdal. I was Sika. Yes, he did his thing in the NFC Championship game, at least in the first half. So I think their injuries offset with our offensive line shuffling. And also, everyone, even if you're talking about Jonathan Hankins, he was also on the injury report. So I think their entire defensive line is either out or banged up. So I think you just have to apply the pressure directly into the teeth of their defensive line. It's the same thing that I said about the Cardinals. Don't try to stretch them out. They play good team defense. They swarm against the run. There's always a bunch of guys around the football. And then what we saw happening was a steady dose of Monty just up the middle, wearing down that defensive line. And that's going to test their depth as well, because they're already with depth. Now they've got tired depth, which has to bring in third and fourth stringers. So I think really, like I say it kind of facetiously, but 300 yards rushing is not out of the picture if we do what we're supposed to do.
300 yards, that would be a pretty incredible day. I hope I got the audio fixed. I think I did. So we should be much better now. I apologize for the first 20 minutes or so here. It's always a crapshoot, it seems like. We had a good run, but not today. So I want to jump off of this for a minute. We still got a lot of matchups to talk about. Like what are they going to be the big matchups in this game? Hutchinson versus backups again on the defensive side of the ball. What is our defense going to be able to do against, another dual threat quarterback that maybe is a little bit beyond his years? Yeah, he should eat, right? We hope he eats. Josh Pascal is a big question. So these are all topics that we're going to be talking about here shortly. Is he going to be able to step up in what is his first real opportunity on the edge? And according to Levi O, he expects nothing but greatness from Pascal the other day, in a conversation that he had with Tim Twentyman. And I do too. I mean, I think this is a really well-coached defensive line. I think Terrell Williams has been, immensely incredible. I mean, that's probably a terrible path of words to take, but the dude has just been insanely good as a teacher for this defensive front, and they're really taking their game to new heights. And he does it in a unique way. It's not like he's he's forcing the guys to do something. He wants these guys to do what they do well. And I mean, it kind of sounds like AG in a sense, but it's funny that he really wants them to do what they do well, and then let's work it into the plan is what I'm hearing. So, but I want to wind back. Talk about themes, and today's the blackout theme, right? Tomorrow night is the blackout. And if you looked closely at the logo in that the Lions put out, that is a grid. So that is a power grid that's behind it that is blacked out. And I had an idea. I'm thinking, why don't they just have Terry and Arnold like in the 50-yard line on the Lions symbol? And he's got one of them little power, switch things, and he's shutting it down, and the lights go out, and it's crazy inside Ford Field. Like, that would have been good to see, right? It would have been kind of fun. But they're talking about the blackout being the power grid. They're going to take the power out of the Seattle Seahawks. It's yet another theme against the Seattle Seahawks that we hope does not blow up in our face. And last year, we had the ski masks. And it was, CJ Gardner-Johnson had the entire city riled up. We shut down Amazon. They couldn't ship out any more blue masks. Made them a ton of money. But man, did we get trolled after the game. So Easy, I'll start with you because you were right there. I mean, you were feeling it. Everyone was feeling the blue masks. What happened? Do you expect it to happen again? What went wrong last year? And do you think themes are fun? Do you think that maybe we're kind of getting off into a direction that we shouldn't be? I guess, what's your thoughts on the theme?
I think the mistake we made was allowing a clown like Chauncey Gardner-Johnson to be the lead in that theme, and that's why we got clowned then afterward. And that's partially my actual thoughts, to be honest with you. Like, we got clowned, and I was all about it too. I'm not shying away from the fact that I was all on air, my blue ski mask on. I got him in before it got shut down. Uh, yeah, he's gone. Yeah, it's kind of like a strictly business thing. Their social media teams posting, all their top 5 highlights in Ford Field, and they posted a picture of Ford Field with Tyler Lockett on it. It's just being absolutely disrespectful. I like the fact that we're wearing all black. If you ever heard that black Air Force energy, I think Detroit Lions are going to match that tomorrow night. I really wish Brian Branch is present for that one because I think he brings that. He brings that as a player. But I think there's just so much in this game, personal reason wise, whether it's like Ben Johnson getting that lick back against Mike McDonald, it's Dan Campbell getting that Seattle Seahawks hump off his back. Like, this is a game I think the Detroit Lions are prepared to win. They want to win. The players. You don't think they remember getting clowned last year? It's not just us as a fan base. They got clowned too. So I think the black, just, it's the Seattle Seahawks are coming into their funeral. That's what it's gonna be, man. Boss up, yeah.
All right, Chef, what do you think about the theme? And then I'm going to kick it back to an old theme that was a different era. It had a different meaning, but let's talk about this one first. So what do you think about the blue ski masks, why it blew up in our face, and can this be a different story for us on Monday night?
Man, it blew up in our face because we lost. That's the only reason. I got 2 of them. I still got them. I got one in my car. That came out wrong. Okay, I still have the 2. Okay, one of them is in my closet. The
No,
other
hold
one
on,
is
hold on. Let's wind back a second. Hold on. You have the ski masks in your car. What's really going on over there? All right, I'll leave it alone.
Yeah, it came out wrong.
Video.
Let's wind that one back. I didn't say that. I just feel like we got exploited. We had a bad defense at the time. I think we were giving up like 28 points per game at that point. And we just weren't. It was a perfect storm of things. We had just come off the victory against the defending Super Bowl champions, Kansas City Chiefs. And I think it's the same thing that kind of happened to, well, it happened worse to the Tampa Bay Buccaneers when they had their emotional Super Bowl when they beat us, well, when we beat ourselves because we couldn't score in the red zone. But then they went back home and got, mollywopped by the Denver Broncos. So I think it was a little bit of that going on. But as far as the blue ski masks, yes, I was all about it. Now, the black, come on, man. I'm just gonna reference one thing here. I'm gonna say a name. Booby Miles. Okay. That's all I got to say. This is Booby Miles. You know what I'm saying? I'm gonna knock him out with some black knights on my feet. So we gotta have all that energy. As Easy said, the black Air Force energy, everything. That's everything. So
Was which movie was that? Put Booby in. What movie was that?
Friday Night Lights.
Friday Night Lights. There we go. Yeah, that was a good movie. The Detroit Lions wanted to play the villains last year, and I think it started early off. Brad Holmes wearing the hoodie at the draft, and really wanted to represent who Detroit was, meaning we're going to be the villains in this league, and we're going to take everything that we can from you, and we kind of completed that with this robber like ski mask, kind of theme, right? We were going to rob everything. We're going to take the game away from you. It just didn't work out, but this season it's the blackout. It's a throwback. It's a little bit different. In my opinion, it's a throwback to Dan Campbell. It's a throwback to Calvin Johnson, when we had the black jerseys back then. And, I think now there's a little bit of a different story that is kind of being written here. I think that, this is going to be an eclectic night. Not only is it Monday night, but it better be the loudest game I have ever attended. I'm imploring all of you to please rest your voice for the next 24 hours. Get up and get ready, to be loud and be ready to cheer this team on, because we're going to need it. The loudest game I've ever been to was a Monday night Chicago game. It was about 11, 12 years ago, whatever it was now. Absolutely the loudest game I've ever been to. Up until the playoff games, of course, this last season. I think that they were right there with it. But this has got to be a theme that we have to win in. Like, we can't let this one taint our black jerseys, for here on out. Because if we lose this game, I mean, how are you going to want to wear that jersey again is my opinion, I guess. Maybe it's a wrong opinion. But I would feel like we have to do everything that we can to win this game. I feel like the Lions with these themes, I don't know, man. The reason why I'm not so confident in doing these themes is because the first, before the ski masks, was the Million Man March, the Orange Out. Do y'all remember the Orange Out? The Million Man March?
I was a little too young for it. I saw this in the prep sheet. I was curious to hear what it was. I remember hearing the Million Man March, but the Orange Out, no.
So it was a Cincinnati Bengals game, and we wanted Matt Millen fired a lot of Lions fans wanted Matt Millen fired. So, I'll read a story here, and it really kind of paints the picture. The cusp of this was we wanted Millen out. The Cincinnati Bengals are coming to town, so we're gonna represent the Bengals. And everyone wore orange everywhere and marched down. I think it was Brush Street. We were marching down, or might have been Woodward. I don't remember. But it was to get the GM out, to get Millen out. But here's a story written by ESPN way back in the day, December of 2005. So on Sunday, they were talking about this gentleman, Chad Sweet, 33 years of supporting the Detroit Lions. He drove 60 miles from his home in Tecumseh to a downtown bar to join in a pregame march demanding that the Lions fire then President Matt Millen. Like hundreds of others, he dressed in orange, like fans of the Cincinnati Bengals, who, by the way, beat us 41-17 that day in the final home game of the season. And like the rest of the crowd, the bar and the rally became an outlet for watching years of lousy football. His quote, this Chad Sweet said, "All of my life, we haven't had a whole lot to root for. We never really got over the hump. A lot of it seems to be ownership related or management related." So the march was sponsored by a local sports talk radio station. It drew about 500 people at its start, but the crowd grew into the thousands as fans walked the 5 blocks to Ford Field. Along the way, they chanted "Fire Millen" and "Ho, ho, ho, Millen must go." And many more wore Fire Millen t-shirts and orange hunting gear. They carried signs that said "Commitment to Ineptness" and "Fed Up." One wore a hat reading "Blame Ford First," a twist on one of the automakers' slogans. So themes in this city have not always been great for the Detroit Lions. There's been some pretty rough meanings behind them. Of course, this was a time and an era in Detroit football I think a lot of us want to erase. It just wasn't good football. It wasn't great management. I think that the ownership was, kind of on the outs. Looks like we got a spammer in here if someone wants to handle this guy real quick. Let me get him out here. There we go. Should be gone now. Gotta love the spammers. Gotta love the streaming spammers. So anyway, I guess, you didn't know about it, Easy, and so now you do. It was a time of Detroit football that many of us have dealt with. I mean, I've been a season ticket holder for 25 years. Season tickets have been in my family for more than 60. My grandfather, kind of started this way back when. And we'll hear more about that on Wednesday. I'm doing some sort of an interview with Riley O'Brien on a different podcast. And for me, now we're a different team, right? It's a different meaning. The ownership is much better, still the same, but it's changed. I mean, Sheila Hamp has done an excellent job. The management, bar none, the best I think we've ever had. So these themes have to be different, right? They have to represent a different brand of football to be successful. So my hope and my goal is that, my hope and I hope their goal is that this theme is going to represent something bigger now that we're bringing back Calvin Johnson, which again, there was an issue there, with another player. And so there's so many little unique things that surround this, with the theme and what themes have meant for Lions in the past. So it just has to be positive. But now that you know what it is, Easy, and Chef, if you didn't know, what do you think about these themes? And then we'll put this little subject to bed.
Well, for me personally, I feel like the orange out actually was a good thing because Millen was terrible and we needed him out of there. So if you see an entire fan base turning against that GM and supporting the other team, and then the other team got the job done, beating you 41-17. You had thousands on the march. It got the job done, so what we're looking for with this theme, I mean, I don't really get too into themes. I'm not a superstitious person at all, which is why I don't agree with the people that say, well, we don't want the black because the black was from the Millen era and blah, 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 blah. Well, okay, these jerseys and uniforms are fire, so it doesn't matter if they
yes,
wore,
they are
black during the Millen era. Those weren't even really all that great. These are great. So I just feel like, wear it is something for the fans. Black is menacing. Look at Devontae Adams right now. Devontae Adams with the black Ravens jersey on, a silver helmet, and that black visor. That's menacing. And he's a receiver. You know what I mean? So if you've got a whole team, especially we have a good defense, right? This is probably on par with the best defense we've had since 2014. Man, just go out there and do it. Punch him in the mouth. Run the damn ball.
That's right.
And I think we will.
I think it's time to kind of turn the tide, right? I mean, we were coming from an era of football, where the black jerseys were symbolic of a team that just failed. And now I think they have an opportunity to kind of turn it the other direction and go a 180 here. You bring in Calvin in, who's going to bless these black jerseys, right? We're going to put them up in the rafters. And it's a Monday night football game. It's our arch nemesis, the Seattle Seahawks, who just had our number. It's time to turn the tide, and I think that's what we're going to do in this game on Monday night. I do believe that the Lions are going to win this game. And I think it's going to be close, but at the end of the day, I don't think it's going to be close as what people are going to perceive here. I think the score might be close, but there could be a little catch-up ball by the Seahawks there, late in the fourth quarter or whatever. So let's turn this into something different here. Lions offensive line injuries versus the number one defense, according to PFF. Can Graham Glasgow just hold the line? We started talking about it. What should we expect from Graham Glasgow? So he last season, he played 3 different positions and he played them all very well. I've seen, where some comments in other shows where we were worried about Graham Glasgow stepping in at center. Easy, are you worried about Graham Glasgow in this position? I think from what I've seen so far, I think he's going to be just fine personally. But what do you think? Do you have any concerns here?
No, not really. I don't have concerns with Graham Glasgow. He started at center enough in his career. I think he has over 100 plus snaps at center. He'll be fine. I'm more concerned about the cohesiveness of whoever's going to be filling in for him at his position at guard. That's where I'm more curious about what's going on. But Graham, Jared, they've worked together before. I think I heard Ben Johnson this week. One of the reasons they brought Graham back is for this reason, because he can play center and because they do have a little bit of cohesiveness with him at that position. So, no, I don't really have an issue. I'm more curious about who's going to play at guard there. And as we're live right now, trying to figure out who that's going to be.
Yeah, so only Coyote Owasika and Michael Neese, I think that they're the only 2 active guards. So I'm going to go ahead and guess that it's going to be Coyote Owasika that's going to get the start. And I'm not going to toot my own horn, but I'm going to have to toot it a little bit. I wanted Graham Glasgow back immediately. I said it very early in the offseason, and it was for this exact reason. I said if Frank Ragnow is dealing with his typical injuries, the foot, the toe, but more so the foot, that plantar plate issue, which is not operable, they can't do anything with it, I expected that we'd probably lose Frank for at least a game, or a partial game. And that's why bringing Graham back was so important, because he does play center. He can play center. He can play every position on the offensive line. And now we're realizing just how important it is to be versatile on the offensive line, and how important it is to have a positional coach like Hank Fraley that can have this team always ready to go. This unit has been one of the best now for 3-4 seasons, and I don't see that going away anytime soon. So, Chef, I'll kick it over to you for just a second. How important of a signing was this for Brad Holmes? Did you agree with it in the very beginning? Did you see the importance of it? And I'll leave it at that.
Yeah, I mean, just to echo what Easy said, he actually stole my thunder. I was going to say that first, but that is exactly why they brought him back. He does have the experience. He does have the ability to play center. So I don't have any issues with him sliding in over there. As we said, I mean, I have less of an issue with Coyote than I believe that, either of you may have, because like I said, what he did in the NFC Championship game, it was like, who's Jonah Jackson? We didn't miss him at all. Now, whatever happened in the second half, I can't defend that. I can't talk about that. But in that first half, we didn't miss him at all. So I don't think we will miss a beat. I'm not saying that, okay, obviously it would be better to have Frank out there, but I don't think there's just going to be this huge noticeable difference where we just can't get it together. We can't run the ball. We can't get our protections called on the offensive line and things of this nature. So I think there's going to be the cohesiveness there. We may make a couple of mistakes, but I really don't think it's going to be anything major.
I would agree. Let's get into some more of the fun stuff here. So game matchups. Easy. Who are the biggest game matchups for you in this game? So you've got Amon-Ra up against one of the best slot corners in Devon Witherspoon, who was a guy that I thought the Lions were going to pick up had he been available. And Dan Campbell even said this week that they really loved Devon Witherspoon. And I'm still in the belief, I don't know if I'm in the minority category here on the belief that Devon Witherspoon would have been ours at 6. But Dan also mentioned, had we had taken Witherspoon at 6, we wouldn't have had this combo of athletes that we do now. We wouldn't have had the Laporta. We wouldn't have had the Branch. We wouldn't have had the Jahmyr Gibbs. We wouldn't have had all 3. Maybe we would have had 2 of them and then Devon Witherspoon, or maybe one of them. But What do you think? What are the biggest matchups for you in this game that we should be paying attention to?
Yeah, reaching out to a few people I know that covered the Ravens previously with Mike McDonald. I guess like one of his perceived weaknesses were his linebackers. He puts them in man coverage quite often. And I think with what we've been trying to work on with Gibbs in that passing game, I think it'd be the perfect time to start motioning him out wide. If you catch a linebacker in a man-on-man situation with him, break his ankles. take that man for all kind. Because Jahmyr Gibbs, I can't speak to him as a pass catcher, but as a route runner, I know he's got it in him. So yeah, I think that'd be a matchup we could expose in the Seattle Seahawks defense. And other than that, like I said, too, that interior defensive line where there's kind of weak right now, and I think I'd attack that. I attack any passing situation. Their linebackers are in coverage. Sam Laporta's healthy. If we catch them on one of our guys, go to them. Like, whoever we can get that's away from Devon Witherspoon and away from Tariq Woolen, I think that's be our recipe for success. But I think Jahmyr Gibbs in the passing game could be one.
I like it. We've been hoping and wishing and wanting more of Jahmyr Gibbs out of the backfield, and it just has not come to fruition as often or as much as I think a lot of us would want. Chef, who are you looking to in this matchup? Who are the biggest matchups to come out of this game offensively for the Detroit Lions?
Offensively, offensively, I would just say Jared Goff being able to use the middle of the field. And I don't mean behind the linebackers, since is what we just talked about, right? The linebackers being in coverage, and their linebacker core being kind of less heralded. So I think that's going to be a big thing. Can we use the middle of the field? And I think we're going to have that opportunity again because we're going to open up with the run, have play action pass going on. So also offensively, this is going to be a tough one, right? Rick Woolen is fast. So I don't know, because I was thinking, hey, JMO might be able to, he'll get single coverage, but Rick Woolen is fast. He's long. I think he might be able to mirror JMO. So it's interesting to see how they're going to be able to get the ball into some of their playmakers' hands. Yeah, so Amon-Ra St. Brown, Devon Witherspoon, that's going to be a big one. But how is Ben Johnson going to be able to scheme them open and maybe get them in favorable matchups against other people who are not Witherspoon and Woolen?
So for me, it's going to be tight end Sam Laporta. Now, I was on the outs that Sam Laporta was even going to dress in this game. All week long, I was hearing that there was a possibility that he wasn't going to be able to go at all. And even with the healthy designation right now, that there was still some opportunity, depending on what happened between Friday and Monday, that there could be a potential that he didn't play. And I don't think that's going to happen now. Now, he suffered a lower ankle sprain in week 3, but right now he looks like he's ready to roll. And that's great news for the Detroit Lions, because this is an opportunity where the Seahawks are lined up to give Laporta a pretty decent day. You've got the linebackers that you guys are both talking about. They're a little beat up right now, so maybe they don't have the best coverage ability, especially when you have multiple guys coming out of the slot, whether it's Amon-Ra St. Brown and Sam Laporta, both running crossers, Jameson Williams flying downfield, and now we have Allen Robinson and Tim Patrick, both up, and I think they're both up for this game. But we won't know until Monday, with the final game designation. Laporta could have a good game, and that's because the Seattle Seahawks are bottom 10th in the league right now in allowing the most catches and the most yards to tight ends. And I think this is an opportunity where we talk about Jared Goff getting the ball out early, right? Reading, reacting to the defense, making sure that, he's playing more up tempo, right? Get that ball out, as quick as possible. And I think that that's where Jared Goff plays his best game. And I also think that that's where Sam Laporta plays his best game, is when we're more up tempo with it, or at least that Jared Goff is getting the ball out a little bit quicker. Seattle's cornerbacks, they've really been extremely good so far this season. I mean, they're the number 1 ranked pass defense in the league. I just don't think that they're going to be able to contain everything that the Detroit Lions can do. I think that this is going to be a game where I mean, dare I say the Lions are going to want to go deep a little bit more often and really get the Seattle Seahawks a little bit more on their back foot? They could. And if they do that with JMO early, I think that's where you start to set up play action underneath. Of course, we've got to get the run game established. But this could be a pound, 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 and then deep shot. Then pound, 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 deep shot. And then, it's dink and dunk underneath for big yak yards. I think that there's a lot of opportunity for Ben Johnson to really mix it up and have a good game. But Sam Laporta is my call for this game. He needs a good game. He hasn't had a good game yet. And he really needs good. Any comments on that?
No, I'm with you. You set up those big passes through the run. So just run the ball, catch him in play action, and then there's James and Williams streaking down the field like it's a Super Bowl or something, and just hit him.
Yeah, I think he's gonna have a good game too. JMO's my other guy for this game. That I had a late message last night from Jared. He said, "Man, Juwan Jennings or JMO," and I said, the 49ers are so beat up. I could see Juwan Jennings having an opportunity in this game. But then I got JMO. I'm thinking about JMO, and I'm thinking about Seattle, and I'm like, man, they are so whipped right now defensively. This could be a big game for JMO to finally break free again since week 1. He really just hasn't done a whole lot since week 1, and I think that this could be an opportunity to get him going. But we can't forget about Allen Robinson and Tim Patrick. I think that they present their own issues, for these guys, and it'll be nice to see, some taller wide receivers on the sideline for once. Flip it over to the defense for just a moment here. Aiden Hutchinson, Josh Paschal, Terry and Arnold. 3 guys are going to have really good games. We're going to need to have really good games. So we'll start with Josh Paschal, with Marcus Davenport going on to IR and likely done for the season. Dan Campbell and defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn have both named Paschal as one with the clearest opportunity to step up this Monday night. Quote from Aaron Glenn was, the guys that's behind those injured guys got to step up. And the guys I'm thinking about, Josh Paschal is the first guy that comes to mind. Defensive coordinator Aaron Glenn said this on Friday via the Richard Silva of the Detroit News. Now, Paschal's career has been kind of set off course by injuries, right? He really hasn't had a great season. He hasn't done enough to prove to anybody that he belongs up there as a starter, but he's kind of forced into a position right now where he's got to shine. He has to play, his game. Where do you see Josh Paschal easy in this game as far as what opportunities is he going to present, the defense, as far as allowing Aiden maybe to have more opportunity or allowing DJ Reader to do his thing, or is it vice versa? Is DJ Reader going to allow Josh Paschal to have more opportunity? I guess, where do you see Josh Paschal in this game? Is he going to have a good opportunity on the right side of this line up against their number 1, starting left tackle? Or do you feel like this game is going to be more one on the left side with Aiden Hutchinson and up the middle with DJ Reader?
Listen, I love Josh Paschal. I've had nothing but great interactions with him. I'm rooting for, I've been rooting for him since I found out his story. He had melanoma in college, and the team captain came back from that, and obviously becoming a second-round pick. I don't know that it's him that steps up in the absence of Marcus Davenport. I feel like it really might be Levi Enrique. I think Josh Paschal is a very sound football player. We've watched him for a couple of years now. We've never really seen him make those big splash plays to have that expectation of him in this one. However, in limited action, I've seen it out of Levi Enrique. I've seen him play the outside a few times, both in camp and I think a few times this season. That's my guy that I'm watching. I think Paschal will do definitely a great job, though, just again playing a sound game, defending his edge and setting up the run. All the other, great run fits, everything like that. But in terms of game wreckage, for sure, Aiden Hutchinson, and I think a Levi Enrique game for me.
So with Aiden, he's got now an opportunity in the 4th week in a row. He's going to be going up against a 3rd-tier offensive lineman. How exciting is that? I hate to take away from what Aiden's doing. Okay, we've got to be honest for a moment. I'm not going to say Aiden's a fraud because we know that's not true. But what I will say is he's gone up against a pretty fraudulent offensive lineman And I think he's had, good results because of it. This last week, I think that he was told to kind of stay home a little bit, don't get too deep, right? Just contain Kyler. Did an excellent job. One of the best games I've seen from Hutchinson. And he didn't need a bunch of sacks to impress me in that game. I just wanted to not see him get burnt, off of his edge. And he didn't. And he played well. So I think that Aiden's growing a lot this season. I really do. And I think that it's more fun to watch a player grow in front of you, than it is to watch a player just kind of have really great games and then disappear and then really great games. I want to see him be consistent, from week to week. So what have you seen out of Aiden this year so far, as far as him growing as a player? Also, how excited are you again this week that he might have an opportunity to pin it back a little bit and kind of get after Geno, who's not as mobile as he used to be?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and take this one because first of all, I need to address. We need to start calling this the shade room because you be shading Aiden, okay, quite often. But that's the thing that I was gonna say. Like the growth that you see, he's growing on his way to 20 sacks maybe this season. So I feel like just a few things that he had to learn. One of the things was just he has such a high motor, so he kind of was motoring himself out of plays, and what we saw with Kyler and a lot of people, like when we did the live stream, a lot of people were crying and whining for pressure. We need to sack Kyler, and it's like, no, really, this is the game plan. And he executed that game plan very well. It was the same game plan that they tried to roll out against Lamar Jackson last season, but he had 10 seconds to throw the ball. And that's not what they had in Arizona. So I feel like just his growth and his understanding of how to rush and how to maintain rush lanes and not to over pursue. We saw him over pursue a little bit in the Tampa Bay game, and it resulted in some big runs, which, albeit there were a lot of holds that were not called, but they kind of fixed that, and I think he understands that. I think he understands how to rush and how to be kind of what would you call it? How to vary his speeds and understand where the quarterback is, not giving him the ability to climb the pocket. So I think he had a sack against Geno last season in the game. So I would expect him to get a few more, especially as Geno gets older. And he's just not the type of runner that Kyler Murray is. But I think Geno is kind of between Kyler and Baker. So he's going to present a little bit of an issue, but I think we'll be able to contain him in the pocket. And Geno's completing 75% of his passes this season. So he just wants to throw the ball anyway.
Yeah, I would agree with that. I don't think that Geno wants to run the ball at all. I mean, he will if he has to. I mean, I think he's got 32-ish yards on the season, and most of that came in one game. So Geno's definitely throw first, run absolutely last. But I'll kick it over to you, Easy. Same question. What have you seen out of Hutch this season? I personally feel it's a great growth season for him. But what have you seen from him? What do you expect from him in this game, going up against, another third-tier offensive lineman? And do you feel like he's kind of going to get that asterisk? I'm not trying to shade the guy, but I'm realistic too. I mean, if he was going up against number ones and having this success, I mean, he'd be the bar none, best DE in the league, but he's going up against third-tier guys. So we have yet to see him, go up against the best of the best that the NFL has to offer. So I'll leave you with that. What do you think about this season for Aiden, where it's heading, and where can it go for him, I guess?
I'm kind of with Brent in the chat. I'll take a fraudulent 3 sacks all day Monday night. Hope we get that W. But I'll say this, but because Max Crosby had one of these runs, I think a year or 2 years ago, where it was like backup tackle after backup tackle. But at the end all be all, he still ended up being like one of the best defensive ends in the league, and I think that's what we have. I think Hutch can be that. If he's not, getting to the quarterback, he's for sure causing pressure. He's for sure making them flustered. And last week, I think his sack actually came against Paris Johnson. So, and that's like their starting left tackle. So, I think he's a dog either way. I think the addition of DJ Reader is going to be huge once he's able to take a little bit more snaps and go full time there too. Because DJ Reader played alongside Trey Hendrickson, apologize, over there in Cincinnati. And a lot of people forget, too, he played along the former Defensive Player of the Year, 3-time Defensive Player of the Year, J.J. Watt, and he helped him eat a little bit, too. So I think we can see this out of Hutch consistently moving forward with a healthy DJ Reader and a healthy Lee Monterique in the middle. Lee McNeil included, too. I know he's kind of banged up this week. But, I think Hutch will remember last year, Geno Smith had that oh shit moment against Aaron Donald? Everyone can see him on national TV or on camera. He's like, "Oh shit!" I think Hutch give him that. I hope he gives him that little bit of a scare this game.
I just don't want to see. I really just don't want to see Geno with his legs because he still has it. I mean, he still has the speed. It's evident that he can still run. And in this game, I feel like with as much hype that's growing around this, the blackout, right, the black jerseys, the Calvin Johnson. The Lions are going to want to win this game. And I feel like sometimes the hype gets into the players a little bit too much to where they do too much. And I feel like Aiden does too much at some points. But I do want to identify something that, it's in the chat. It's everywhere. Easy. Do you feel like Aiden gets held way too much? Like, is it just me? Because I've been noticing it a little bit more and more. It's like the guy gets clotheslined and he doesn't get any calls. Now, he was throwing up his hands, trying to get the refs to call things, early, last season and early in this season. But, man, you see quite a few penalties being committed where there's no flags. And it's happening right in front of the refs. What is going on with this? Do you feel the same way here?
I do. I go back to last year's game against the Seattle Seahawks on that touchdown, the game-winning touchdown. He was held. He's being held like as clear as day. And it really pissed me off. I don't know, man. NFL's got some unwritten rules. It's like a lot of times, like those mobile quarterbacks, the bigger ones, how they don't really get roughing the passer calls or stuff like that because refs become accustomed to those guys taking hits on the run. And I think with all these premier edge rushers, that's kind of what it is too. They get held all the time because they have to get held, and maybe rushers are accustomed to seeing it, so they're not throwing that flag, but in a moment like that, touchdown play, last play of the game, you got to call that. That was, if it's as clear as day like that, man, like you said, last week I saw him with clothesline, I saw that play as well. Some of these got to get called because they're a little egregious, and at a certain point, I just don't want the guy to get hurt.
Yeah. Well, I didn't even think about the injury factor to this, but yeah, I mean, it's real. And I do believe anytime a ref is inflicting, their bad or negative energy in a game, I think it usually happens towards the end of the game, kind of like what we saw last night. So talking about, refs not calling things, or maybe they're calling things at the wrong time, or you just question what in the heck they're actually calling. Minnesota-Michigan game yesterday. The onside kick, Minnesota recovers. That guy was not offside. And you're wondering, what is the ref doing? You would think they would have to be really egregious that he was offside for them to throw the flag. I mean, he wasn't. I mean, I think Mike Pereira even came on and said that this was weird. What are you doing? Why are you calling this? We see the same thing in the NFL. Just weird calls or no calls. And I think that Aiden deserves a little bit of the benefit of the doubt here that maybe these third-tier guys can't hold him. Even some of the first-tier guys couldn't hold him. And the only way that they're able to keep Aiden down is by holding him, literally holding him, or doing anything that they can to interfere with him trying to get to the quarterback. And I need to see some flags, because if you're going to call it on the Lions, if you're going to call hands to the face on the Lions or whatever, and screw us out of a big play, I've got to start seeing some flags against Aiden. And I'm wondering, what's it going to take for Dan Campbell and Brad Holmes and Sheila to, write some letters to the NFL to say, hey, here's 50 clips. There's just the last 3 games, and there's not one penalty called. What's going on here?
Even the call that was on Frank Ragnow last week, or against the Tampa Buccaneers game.
Yeah.
But it's second and 16. That was just a ticky-tacky call. But you got Aiden Hutchinson over here getting put in a headlock, and there's just nothing.
Yeah. I think I saw him at one point. He got, who was it? This might not have been Aiden, but there was a player that was literally spun around so that the tackle put his arm out, right, as he's running past him across his chest, and he spun him around and nothing was called. And it's like, what are they doing? The ref was right there. So that brings me to Terry and Arnold talking about ticky-tacky. How worried are you about Terry and Arnold right now?
I'm not that concerned. I mean, this matchup, yes. If he's, across from DK Metcalf, I'm a little concerned. But outside of that, ticky-tacky stuff, so I can't really, I don't know if you swear on here, but I can't really complain. I use that word
just no F-bombs.
Yeah. All right. I can't really complain so hard just because they're like, dude, I think a lot of the flags he's gotten are the same plays they show when they're showing highlight clips for Sauce Gardner.
Right.
You know what I'm saying? As a matter of fact, I think Sauce Gardner is even more egregious with it. So I think it's just more so the referees maybe just getting used to that style of play. Maybe. I mean, I really don't know what it is. I think a lot of it's been, and I get that I'm a Lions fan, so maybe there's a bias in it. But like, I swear, you'll watch Sauce Gardner, he's doing all the same stuff, if not worse. So I just don't really know why it's being called an our guy. I think it's more so like a welcome to the league type of situation. But I just like that he's with these receivers when it's happening. You know what I'm saying? He's not so far from the play and catching up and doing something weird, like frantically. It's just, I think the referee, similar situation with, like I said, the roughing the passers or no calls and Hutch. Hopefully they get that same conditioning with Terry Arnold kind of being like physical within routes.
I think you brought up a great point, and Chef, I want to ask you the same thing. So Terry and Arnold is with the receivers, right? Last year we saw Jerry Jacobs without the receivers. We saw Kendall Vildor without the receivers, and Cam Sutton, I don't know if he was getting water half the time the receivers were running down the field or what, but yeah, we didn't see any of our corners with a receiver with an opportunity to make a play. So are you concerned about Terry and Arnold, or do you feel like this is just going to be a little bit of growth that he's going to need, that maybe he's getting picked on a little bit because he's a rookie? And be that as it may, I still think that the refs need to call the game correctly. I still think that they need to call the penalties correctly, and I feel like they've missed out on some of these. But there's times where he's been a little handsy. My biggest educational thing for a corner, would be to play with your hands in your pockets. And if you can play with your hands in your pockets, you're going to do great at any level. And I think that he'll get there. But are you worried about Terry and Arnold? Do you feel like the refs are picking on him? Where do we go next, with Terry? Do you think he's going to have any difficulty in this game on Monday?
I gotta do it, man. Terry Arnold is not Jeff Okudah. So
you constantly bring up Jeff Okudah.
I hate Jeff Okudah. So I'm not worried about Terry Arnold. As I said, when I had Doc on, when I look at Terry Arnold, I understand what I'm looking at. As a former DB myself, he's very good. He's sticky in coverage. He's got good technique. Now, the thing that gets him in trouble is sometimes he is out of control. But as far as the referees, they've been consistently inconsistent. And it hasn't just been, it's been across the league. I mean, there was a call in the Giants game on Thursday night where I think it was their tight end got called for a face mask. And then when you go back on the replay, he was the one that got face masked. And they let it stand. We had the whole controversy of the Kyle Pitts pass interference that wasn't called against the Chiefs. So they've been consistently inconsistent. And I think if we're going into the conspiracy theory situation here, that's what they're doing. Right? If you're consistently inconsistent, like Lions fans are like, oh, it's just us, but everyone can point to like, look, the refs are screwing us here, they're doing this, that, and the third thing. And that gives them the ability, if they're consistently inconsistent and then they want to do something egregious like not call pass interference against Kyle Pitts in the end zone to end the game pretty much, then you can go, but look, we didn't call this one right, and we didn't call this one right. We're just bad at our jobs. Forgive us, But as far as Terry Arnold, man, no, I don't have any problems with Terry Arnold. There was a play when he was on Marvin Harrison where I thought they were going to call something because he did get there a little bit early.
Mm-hmm.
He didn't call it.
I think I remember exactly which play you're talking about. It was kind of right at the hash there, kind of center field.
Right.
Yeah.
So Like Easy said, I mean, they're just gonna have to get used to his style of play, but his style of play isn't all that physical. It isn't all that handsy. It isn't like impeding the receivers and things of this nature. I mean, look at the Marvin Harrison move that you talked about that he probably learned from his father, where he hooked Carlton Davis. And, clear as day, Marvin Harrison hooks Carlton Davis's arm. Carlton Davis gets called for pass interference. So I mean, it's just and those little nuances and things like that. Once Terry Arnold learns those things and is consistently under control, I think he's good to go. I think he will be a star in this league, and I think he will be able to develop into a shutdown or a lockdown corner.
Well, I do think that Terry and Arnold is going to offer the Detroit Lions defense something that we haven't seen in a long time, and we're already experiencing it with Carlton Davis, and that is time. If Geno or any other quarterback has time to throw the ball, at least we know that our corners are sticky enough that they can make a play, or they're disguised enough, right? Probably blended into the wall, camouflaged according to some people, that they're going to come up with an interception. And I felt like, this was a huge problem that the Lions needed to fix this offseason, and they did. I mean, not only did they double down in free agency, but they doubled down in the draft to bring in 4 really good corners and guys that can also play in the nickel, and then bouncing Branch back to, the safety position, which I think are all great moves. Really unfortunate that, if Etu Melifonwu is now placed on IR, since we're talking about, corners and DBs, I guess Easy, I'd like to get, maybe something from you on Etu Melifonwu. Do you think this is it for him? Do you think he's going to be able to come back? Do you think the Lions pursue him in the offseason? What's the storyline here on Etu Melifonwu? Because I heard he was either going to be back this week or gone, meaning, shut down, and obviously he's been shut down. So.
Yeah, it's unfortunate, man. He is, I like when he's healthy. Obviously last year we saw that, a little bit of a flash for him, and I think that's something we could probably consistency. I do think he's someone we bring back. If we look at Brad Holmes' track record, he is he likes him a little banged up. I can fix him. That's Brad Holmes' free agency. So I do like the fact that he'll be back. And as fortunate as it is, this is a business, and this is going to sound gross and disgusting. He might be back this season, but like if he doesn't return, you get him at a little bit of a discount. In your bringing him back situation. So it sucks to hear, sucks to see, but I like him to remain a Detroit Lion, and if a little cheaper than not, let's do it.
Yeah, I'm in the same boat there. I do like Iffy. I think that he's been growing. He's been in a growth phase too. I think last year was good growth for him to kind of watch how he evolved, because the first few seasons, he's been injured. And to your point, Brad Holmes kind of likes these guys for whatever reason. I'm just a little disappointed at how they handle it. And I know that the roster gymnastics are a little bit tough to figure out, in the early part of the season. You didn't expect to have multiple guys go out in week 3, and you can only bring, 8 guys back off of IR throughout the season. You can only sit down 2 that don't count against the 53. I mean, it's literally roster gymnastics, right? There's so much going on that many of us, including myself, will never understand all of it, because we're not sitting there in the room. They don't give us the playbook on the outside. We kind of have to get fed, information the best way we can. It sucks to see Etu, go to IR in week 4, where maybe he could have went to IR prior to 53, or at some point the Lions could have been making some moves or possibly save somebody that we let go, like Matthew Betts. Would have been nice to keep around. But that'll bring me to Davenport, as we're talking about injuries. I don't know your stances on these players. Where was Marcus Davenport in your eyes as far as how well he was playing this season? Do you think that he's a player that comes back? I guess give us your overall opinion on Davenport and what he did for the Lions. But an all-encompassing overview here. What do you think of Davenport?
Davenport is a dog. I think when he's healthy, he's a SOB. For damn sure. Some of my guys are not necessarily getting the quarterback, but causing problems. He was that. He is one of the nastiest bull rushes I think I've seen. I know that sounds crazy to say, but when I watch him, you see him in action, like he was bringing that type of energy. You got the sack with a half a sack with Levi in that Rams game. And unfortunately, the story of his career has been injuries. And this one, you can't really parade around like you get hurt just because if you watch on tape, he was being the strongman bully he was, setting the edge on a run, and the guy chopped down his arm. I don't know if you guys saw the way he got hurt there, but like, and I guess technically it's not dirty. That's what they're telling me, but I mean, that looked kind of ugly, man. But it sucks to lose him. I think Brad addresses that position, but I just don't know if we see it addressed until the deadline. I just don't think I get it from a business standpoint. You don't want to invest in anything that may get hurt down the line until you absolutely have to. And I think that's what he probably that's probably the route he's going to take. But I'd love to see a Trey Hendrickson or someone. And by the way, with trade deadline, I'm not talking about any Joe Schmo. Like, I want like a dog. This is Super Bowl bust for me as a Detroit Lions fan. I think this organization is looking at the same. I don't know, Sheila. I was in the Meyer Performance Institute, whatever they're calling it now, and she's got all type of Super Bowl monikers around the building. I truly think they're going for the gusto this year, and I think Brad has to show that this trade deadline.
Yeah, I would agree. What do you think, Chef? You got, I guess, kind of same kind of question there. How do you feel Davenport was performing this year? Do you think he comes back? And give us your overview on him.
Yeah, he was playing really well. He's definitely coming back. I mean, just look at him out mostly. Okay, he's coming back if he's coming back. Anybody that gets injured is coming back. Now, the iffy thing though, I saw earlier that Christian McCaffrey is gone for a month. So what I'm looking at with iffy, the only thing that we did hear about his injury, it was something like Achilles tendonitis, which is the same thing that McCaffrey's dealing with. So if McCaffrey's coming back in a month, then iffy could return in a month. The one time that he did practice, he did look good. I don't know. I guess maybe it flared up after that. But he looked to be moving fluidly without any type of issues. So hopefully he can come back. But I definitely believe that Marcus Davenport is going to come back just for the sheer. The reason is he was playing very well. His injury wasn't like an injury that happens, like a freak injury, something that it's like, oh man, here he goes, he can't stay on the field again. No, he was intentionally targeted. You know what I mean? So I believe that he will definitely be back.
Well, I believe the same thing. I think Davenport will be back. I'm hoping that if he comes back, and by the way, not to, toot my own horn or whatever, but there's a lot of weird stuff being posted about Ifeatu Melifonwu a few weeks ago. And I had heard from somebody that I know that he was dealing with more of that tendonitis, right? And my whole take on that was sometimes my son had the same thing. The Achilles tendonitis, it can be worse than just rupturing the Achilles. Like, at least when you rupture it, you can just get it cleaned up, put it back together, you have surgery, you're out 12 months, or hopefully back by 12 months, right? And it sucks because, it's about a year and a half before you're really playing well and confidently again. I think we've seen that with just about every Achilles injury that requires surgery. Is it takes 18 months for those guys to really start playing well again. It did for Ojamo. He did for a lot of guys. But that's the only thing that sucks with this tendonitis is it can flare up at any time. And that's where these guys, suffer a lot of time off. They have to take the time off because it's so inflamed and so painful and cramping that they can't play. And that's why it's almost like, man, I almost wish I would just have it surgically repaired. And that way, at least it's done and deal with it. But then again, anytime you're cut, who knows what's going to happen after the fact? You might not ever be the same player again. But with all of this stuff, right, talking about pressure with Aiden earlier and going up against third string quarterback or third string tackles and, Marcus Davenport being, hell of a player. I mean, I thought he was playing excellent ball. I love to see the guy back, but there was an alarming stat for Seattle that kind of popped up. And it really illustrates the difficulties that their group is kind of had thus far. And that's with Geno Smith, that his throws, his passes under 2.5 seconds, even though he's getting the ball out extremely quick, he's still being pressured 19.7% of the time, which is the third highest mark in the league. Meanwhile, like quarterbacks, Patrick Mahomes, Lamar Jackson, Joe Burrow, Derek Carr, Josh Allen, they've all only been pressured under 7% of the time in the same situation. And there was a quote here, and I forgive me, I don't know who said it. It might have been Howard off of that one podcast we listened to earlier. Who was that? I forget the name of the podcast. He says, when that ball is out in 1001, 1002, you've got to be almost beaten clean to give up a pressure. And what he means by that is when Geno or any quarterback is getting that ball out so quick, the only way you're going to get a pressure is if that guard or that tackle was beaten clean. Like they knifed right through, Aiden rips right through, unabated to the quarterback. And that's scary, right? That's scary for a quarterback to be able to get the ball out that quick and you're still having pressure in your face. So it's almost like not picking up the stunt in order to get pressure on the quarterback that quickly. It is a massive breakdown. That is something that's going to have to be cleaned up, and it's going to have to be a point of emphasis, I'm sure, come Monday night, because of that monster. You've got to block off the edge. And that monster is none other than defensive end, Detroit Lion, Aiden Hutchinson, who now has 6.5 sacks through the first 3 weeks, which includes a 4.5 sack outing in week 2 against Tampa Bay. He leads the league with 25 total pressures and has the second highest pass rush grade of 94.2 per PFF. Hutch will be matched up against a Seahawks offensive line that has the 4th lowest pass blocking grade at 53.2. So I know I probably should have brought all this up before when we were talking about Aiden. I just kind of forgot about it. But, he's going to be going up against players like Laken Tomlinson, former Detroit Lion, Anthony Bradford, Stone Forsythe. They all rank in the top 50 of most pressures allowed. So when you look at a defense, gosh, I wish it would have still had Davenport, but it doesn't. We still have DJ Reader. And that's where I'm going to go with this. DJ Reader is absolutely blowing up the middle of these offensive lines easy. And I feel like this is another great opportunity where we're going to see DJ Reader do his thing. And it affects that line in such a big way that Aleem McNeil's going to be able to have a good game. Hopefully he's playing well with, the injury that he suffered. He bounced back really quick to be able to be up in this game. But Aiden Hutchinson, I feel, is going to have some big opportunities. And to your point earlier, Levi I think he's going to have some big opportunities. I'm really excited about the fact that he's finally staying healthy. It's been a great season for him so far. I don't care about the stat lines as much. I feel like when we play with energy, we play like, the hive defense, which is what I call it. Everyone's kind of moving to the ball. Everyone's running to the ball. That's the defense we want to see. And they seem to have the most success when they play that way, when they play together. When you see the guys, more reactive together, moving in the same direction together, they're all on the same page. We haven't had that in every single season with the Aaron Glenn defense, but we're starting to see it now. I guess where I'm going with this is a pretty beat up offensive line already, but the fact that they're giving up at 3 positions, the most pressures allowed all season, and Geno's getting the ball out in under 2.5 seconds and still getting pressure. Give me a sack number, man. What's going to happen in this game defensively for the Lions? What do you think could happen?
Yeah, man, I wish there was a prop you could put for team sacks. I'm sure there is somewhere, but 2 to 3. Like honestly, and I really lean toward the past games they play. I think Geno Smith's been sacked at least twice in every single one of those games, and a lot of it's coming from the interior. I like Liam a lot. I think you guys learned by now. I like Levi a lot too, and I think I think we ought to get him. Give us 2-3 sacks for sure, for damn sure. I don't know how many Hutch is getting, but we're gonna get him. We're gonna get the Geno.
I hope so. Chef, what do you think? How many sacks do you think that we can pull off in this game?
When we're talking about Geno getting the ball out so quickly, I just look back at Stafford, and we hit Stafford, didn't sack him a lot. I want to say 3 or 4, but all right, I'm gonna say 3 or 4. I'm just gonna keep it spicy.
So you got 2-3, you've got 3-4. I'm going to go right in the middle. I'm going to split the baby here. I'm going to say 3 sacks overall, and I think that that's being generous because I don't think sacks in this game is the what's going to make the biggest difference for the Lions to be able to win this game. I think that just playing a fair, honest game, keeping everything in front of you is what matters, and I think that'll be the last couple of talking points today. Last week we had seen, and I know Aaron Glenn came to the podium and said, or when he was asked, are we going to use a spy? And he said, spies don't work, whatever else he said, right? Well, guess what we did? We used a spy at times, and that was Jack Campbell. If you go back and watch the tape, Jack was in the middle of this defense. He was definitely spying Geno. He was following him everywhere he went, back and forth. He was staying, vigilant with his surroundings and making sure that he was in a, perfect opportunity to make a play, whether it was crashing forward to get to Geno or on the outside. And I don't think that this is a game necessarily where we have to spy Geno, because I don't think it's a run first type of mentality. But I do believe that we do have to bracket down and keep Geno corralled. With all, just being honest here, with all the injuries that the Lions have faced, all the injuries that Seattle has now faced, but nowhere near to the front that the Lions have. I do believe that we're going to have some limitations in containing DK Metcalf, who we haven't even talked about, or Tyler Lockett, in their passing game. But their passing game has been fairly dynamic. Where do you see the Lions having some success against the passing game? And we'll finish it on that, talking about the Lions defense versus the Seattle Seahawks offense.
I think it'd be Aiden Hudson. He's just a smart football player. He's just constantly kind of aware of where he's at in the field. That's why you see him with these interception stats that you talk about him as an edge rusher, but like he's passed consistently now. He's grabbed interceptions in the past 2 seasons. So I think if they're going to rush the ball out, maybe he drops back, gets his hands on a few balls and tipping them. And a lot of that too coming from just beating around DJ Reader, goes around JJ Watt, who had that moniker for a while, JJ SWAT. Because if you're not going to get to the quarterback to sack him, at least get your hands up and affect the pass. And I think a lot of pass rushers miss on that because they're so solely focused on beating their guy in front of them and getting to that quarterback. But just defensive line, get your hands up. We're going to need it because this wide receiver core for Seattle is deadly. They're lethal.
Well, I would love to see Aiden get his hands on a ball again. There's nothing more exciting than when a defensive end just kind of snatches one out of midair. Chef, what do you think, man? Is this going to be one up front? Is it going to be one in the middle? Is it going to be one with the DBs? Where do you see this Lions defense having some success against the Seattle Seahawks offense?
Not gonna like this, but I think we're gonna see a lot of zone coverage. I think we're gonna try to keep things in front of us, just like we did with the Los Angeles Rams. Especially with DK Metcalf, you can't let that guy get behind you. I think it's a theory that I have. Aaron Glenn learned his lesson. He's not gonna leave anybody one-on-one with DK Metcalf like he did with Jeff Okudah when he went off for 140 yards and a touchdown. So I think that's what's going to happen. We're going to keep everything in front of us. We might employ a bend but don't break defense. That just depends on how quickly Geno can get the ball out. They have a very difficult receiving core. They have 3. I guess we're going to talk about them like the Packers, right? The Packers have 4 number 2s, right, and no number 1s. I think the Seahawks have 3 number 1 receivers. You could say Jackson Smith and Jigba is a number 2, but he's developing into a number 1. So I think it's just going to be very, very important to keep everything in front of you.
Yeah, I would agree. I think that we're going to do a little bit of both too, though. I think that we're going to see a little bit of man inside of his zone coverage. It may not be a deep shell that we're running the entire game. I think it's really going to be dictated up front. I think that the way that we win in the pass game is by shutting down the run. We have to make Geno more one-dimensional. And you guys know that I call mobile or dual threat quarterbacks 1.5 dimensional, because even if you take away the run, there's still a half a dimension of a run game. They can still do things to you that, you don't want to have happen, but it just happens. Even Patrick Mahomes, he doesn't want to run the ball, right? But he will. And when he does, he can gash you. Same thing with Geno. He still has the speed. I don't care that he's 30 plus years old, an older quarterback in the NFL. The guy can still move. So if we don't take him serious, he's going to hurt us on the ground. And I'm expecting, we didn't even talk about Walker or Charbonnet, but both of those guys are up in this game. The Lions are going to have to continue winning in the run game. We have not allowed a running back to go for more than 100 yards, or it's been 100 yards or less in over 22 contests now. That has to continue in this game. I feel like that is one of the keys to the game, is we have to keep the running game at bay. My second biggest key to the game is DK Metcalf. We have to control one of these receivers. And I think the DK Metcalf is going to have to be the guy that gets, the bracketed coverage, a safety over top and underneath. And he's going to have to be matched up against Carlton Davis, I believe, the entire game. I think that Terrion Arnold is going to get absolutely schooled against DK Metcalf. I'd rather see him up on Tyler Lockett, a little bit more of a shiftier, smaller receiver, but I think that they pair up a little bit better. So I'm actually happy, watching our defense evolve this season with traveling. We're seeing Carlton travel and Terrion travel on the backside of the line. That has to continue in this game as well. But I think it's a man inside of his own coverage scheme the majority of this game. Take away the run game, limit Geno, and then pin him back and start to get after Geno probably, middle of the second quarter when you got to feel him out and see what he's able to do with the ball. DK Metcalf, according to Tim Twentyman, said that he looks forward to playing in this hostile environment at Ford Field on Monday night. He said that these are the games that separate the men from the boys. Metcalf said that Ford Field ranks as one of the top 3 loudest stadiums he's ever been in the NFL. In terms of overall hostile environments, he ranks it as just behind Philly and San Francisco. I would agree with that, but we're going to be extra hostile on Monday night. I promise you, we've thrown the ski masks in the trash, but I guarantee you people are going to show up with them. But it is a blackout on Monday night. Easy. I appreciate you taking some time this morning to join Rock Down Podcast Network, Rock Down Detroit Lions. It's been a great conversation. That's what today is all about. And is there any final words you would like to kind of kick everybody off to before game time here at 1 p.m.?
Make sure you hit that like button like it insulted your mother. Subscribe to my guy Will, Rock Down Podcast. Also, check me out, Uber Sports 5 to 7 Monday through Friday. But also doing some content with Lions Nation Unite, Herman Moore, and the guys. We do a post-game show, and I think we'll start doing game previews Thursday this week. We did it with Scott Bischoff. So Lions Nation Unite, former Detroit Lion, Herman Moore. He's kind of in charge over there. Make sure you guys go check that out and go support.
That's cool, man. And Chef, what do you got to say about the game or your final words for the day?
Well, just to touch on the running backs. So I don't want to be cocky or arrogant, but last year I think they both combined for about 60 yards. This year, running backs alone are averaging about 2.6 yards per carry against the Detroit Lions. You're not going to be able to run the football doing that. I think they're averaging like 3.4 yards per carry or 3.6 altogether. That extra yard or that extra 0.8 yards comes from mobile quarterbacks. It comes from Kyler Murray. It comes from Baker Mayfield. So I'm not too worried about the run game. We still have DJ Reader. We still have Aleem McNeil. We still have Aiden Hutchinson. We're minus Marcus Davenport, but Levi O will be able to step up in that situation. Josh Pascal will be able to step up in that situation and set the run. So not particularly worried about that. Just my key to the game is you have to run the football as the Detroit Lions, and you have to be able to, we know they're going to stop the run, but you have to be able to contain this passing attack. You have to be able to get Geno Smith off his spot. He's completing 3/4 of his passes, and that's insane.
Yeah.
So
yeah.
we must disrupt him. As far as my final thoughts, look for my guy Easy. Hopefully, because I know he's busy, but look for him to join me on Wednesdays to preview the games as well. So, yeah.
Well, that would be awesome, man. I can't wait to see you guys together. Hopefully, Easy can carve out some time. That would be wonderful. My final thought is this: is Seattle's defense, man. They have looked revitalized under McDonald. I don't think it's a surprise that, he has brought this Baltimore style of a defense over to Seattle. It's a defense that he's been running ever since his time in Michigan. They've only been allowing 4.7 yards per pass attempt, and that is something that Jared Goff is going to have to figure out early in this game, along with Ben Johnson. He's going to have to dial it up. He's going to have to mix it up. Right now, they are tied 5th with 11 sacks. Their run defense really has been their Achilles heel for multiple years, but they've put up respectable numbers, kind of near the middle of a pack right now. They're top 15th in the league. They've only allowed 349 rushing yards all season long and 4.4 yards per carry. And I think it's that 4.4 that we need to pay attention to, because both Demo and Jahmyr Gibbs, they can definitely put up 5 or more yards per carry against the Seattle Seahawks in this game. And I think that that's where the Lions are going to win on offense, is set the run, develop the pass, get play action moving, get the ball deep to J-Mo, and just mix it up. Ben goes back to being a mixologist in week 4, and the Lions are going to win this game running away. I don't feel like it's going to be close. I think it'll be close towards the end. I've got all of Rock's locks up. I did not make any changes for the week. So check them out at my Twitter at Will Rock Jr., or check out yesterday's content with the live stream where we did the picks. And hopefully, right now I'm ranked top 11 in the nation. Hopefully we can move up a couple of spots this weekend. Easy, thanks again, man. Appreciate you and all your time. I know you're extremely busy, and same for you, Chef, man. We'll see you guys later. Go Lions, go One Pride. We'll see you on Monday night. I'll be at the game, but won't be any pregame from us, or there will be from Chef though, I think. So we'll see you guys next week. You guys take care. Go One Pride. Enjoy your Sunday.